Well, hello there, everybody. It's good to, I guess I can't see you, but it's good to be here. And hopefully we're going to get a ton of live attendance here so we can have some fantastic conversations about how to grow with multiple Google business profiles done the right way, because there is a right way and a wrong way to do this. And so I'm excited to share this with you guys. This is only the second time I've ever shared this webinar. So you guys haven't missed much, and I don't see too many people sharing this type of information. So we're going to go over how to do demographic research, how to use tools like ChatGPT to help you facilitate this, how to also go ahead and find a location, do the competitive analysis, et cetera, and then also how to drive massive amount of reviews very quickly, so that way we can make these revenue producing assets in a very short period of time. So I'll give everyone just another minute or so to populate in the room. I know it is May, it's starting to get warm. So some of you guys may just be watching this on replay, but if you guys are here, please comment. My team, Nadine is our marketing manager. She will be helping you guys out with the comments in the sidebar. So go ahead and comment anytime. Let me know where you're from, what part of the country you're from, and maybe what, if any, Memorial Day plans you have, because obviously this is like the unofficial start of summer with Memorial Day. So hopefully some of you guys are going on a lake, doing some grilling out, maybe going up north or finding a cabin, getting some relaxation time before the craziness of summer kicks off. Blair, we need to get you some more fun plans for Memorial Day weekend, because it's going to be hot here. Not as hot as it could be, but it's going to be hot here in Phoenix. But it's nice to meet you. I'm about 45 minutes southeast of you in Santan Valley. So it's good to see you on here. What the heck, guy? Oh, there we go. You know, I was going to say, so Bradley, you're representing Milwaukee and Wisconsinites, which that's where I'm originally from. We moved to Arizona about 4 years ago. You're doing exactly what most people in Wisconsin do on Memorial Day weekend, camping and drinking. So good to see that. Some of you other guys, Nadine, you're coming over to my house. So you have plans. Ooh, Corey, going to Costa Rica. I am jealous. My wife and I have been talking about going to Costa Rica. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've heard it is absolutely gorgeous down there. Hi, Lori. Good to see you here. No, and Nadine, actually, I forgot to tell you this, but you have to work on Monday. I'm just kidding. Awesome. Well, let's get started. Everyone's popping in here. So, because we have a lot to cover today. And I think there's probably going to be, typically this webinar has a lot of questions just because there's a lot of nuance to how to do this properly. So first of all, I want to start with a little bit of a story, because my time in the trades is really what these strategies were born out of. And so I'm going to take you guys back to 2019. I was at Professional Services in Port Washington, Wisconsin, just a little bit further north from where Bradley is in Milwaukee. And I had just been hired to grow an HVAC business that was doing about $1 million in revenue. They had been open for 9 or 10 years or so, just existing. They were fairly profitable at 1 million, but they wanted to grow because the owner was in his mid 50s and he wanted to scale and exit. And so I didn't have much of a budget to work with. And when I say much of a budget, I really didn't give any budget for ads. It was all like, hey, grow us organically and figure it out. Our county that we were in was only about 70,000 people. The actual town we served only had about 12 or 13,000 people at that time. So very small area. It wasn't a big metro area where there was just an abundance of people to find. And so I did what we had Service Titan at the time, and I did what any scrappy person would do. And I just started digging into numbers and data and trying to understand, like, where are our best opportunities coming from? And it was pretty apparent to me once we started looking into this stuff that Google Map leads were the best leads for us. Our average ticket was roughly about $800 higher than any other marketing channel that we went through. They hired us based on 5-star reviews. They did less shopping because of our reputation, and it was just a simpler process. So as I was figuring this out, that's what led me down the deep dive of Google Maps and Google Business Profiles, which it was Google My Business at that time. But what really started to intrigue me was, okay, we're doing really well in our main town. How do we grow in some of these other really nice markets that have 20,000 people, 25, 30,000 people, but the right type of customer that we wanted to serve? And so it really led me down this path of like how to do this properly, because there is a way to do it wrong. And I see a lot of people do it wrong. And our sales team sees a lot of people do this wrong. And we get a lot of coaching on that end of like how to do this the right way. And so, really, what we want to focus on is making more local opportunity for you guys. You guys all know that locality wins, especially some of you guys. Like I know Lori and the team over at Jay's, they do a great job with like local marketing, um, community marketing. Being part of that community is huge. So being local, being fast, and having a system that can expand your business without having to pay for Google ads, which now pretty soon you guys will all be probably hearing about ChatGPT ads, and I'm sure Perplexity will run ads, and Claude at some point will have ads, and we'll have ads in a million different places. That spreads your budget extraordinarily thin. And we really want to focus on what finds us the best opportunities in your town. All right, Nadine, I'm going to move my main StreamYard screen. So any comments, questions, I'm going to leave that to you. I'm not going to be looking at that screen. I'm just going to be looking at my presentation. As you guys have questions as we go through this, drop them down. Don't hold them to yourself. You'll ask them later. I will answer every single person's question at the end of this. So just drop it in the comments whenever you have it. All right. So what we're going to go over today, why 1 GBP is not enough anymore, how to create and verify additional listings the right way, how to manage, optimize, and rank them without getting suspended. That is a big one. I see a lot of threads and a lot of Facebook groups about people getting suspended, and it can be an absolute nightmare to get reinstated. Who should add a second GBP listing? Because there are some nuances there as well. Why multi-trade companies need more than 1 GBP, and common issues with multiple GBP listings and how to avoid them. So like I said, we're going to cover a lot today. If I know some of you guys, some of the names looked a little new here that I haven't seen before. My name is Josh. I've been in the industry since 2013. Almost can't remember. That's what happens when you get older. You can't remember how long you've been in an industry doing something. I started in the HVAC industry March of 2013. So coming up on 12, 13 years now, either in the HVAC contractor side or the digital marketing side. We've done some pretty cool stuff on the digital marketing side, won some awards, but today we're here to focus on how we can grow your business. Now, let me know in the chat. I know we only have about 20 some people live here, so we may not get a lot of comments and stuff, but comment if this is you. If you feel like you're struggling to rank or show up anywhere beyond maybe a mile or two from your main office building, just type me in the chat if that is you or that is your gut feeling. And as I'm looking off to this other screen, I'm just checking comments and things like that. So Dee Dee said, yes, that's her. Ryan, yep. Okay, good. Good. Well, you guys are in the right place today because we're going to focus on how to fix this once and for all. Now, for some of you guys, if you're really struggling to rank more than a mile or two from your shop, we did do a webinar recently, and Nadine, maybe you can pull that link about, it was all about Google Business Profile optimization and some really strategic tips in there, which we'll get into just specific profile stuff. This webinar today is not going to go deep into that. It's going to go deep into how to rank multiple and how to set up multiple Google Business Profile listings. So just an additional opportunity for you to get some more context and information to grow your business. So today the goal is to change that. We're going to focus on making sure that you guys can rank where you want to rank. So where the right type of customer is for your business. And that's super important because a lot of times contractors will set up their main office. When you set up your business, you don't think about this. You're not thinking strategically, like, oh, where are my customers? Oh, that's where I want to rank on Google Maps. That's not what's going through your head. What can I afford? Where's the cheapest place to get a warehouse or an office so I can put some materials and equipment and stuff like that? And that's what most people think of. The first company I worked for, we were in this industrial park. We weren't near any sort of, we're a bunch of homes where we weren't in a really great market. It was a very, very tiny town, like 2,000 people, and it wasn't ideal. And so those things don't really populate in people's head when they think about where they want to put their office. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So obviously, we talk about this. The biggest part here I want to mention is the bottom, without breaking Google's rules. We don't want to break Google's rules because Google's a pain in the butt to deal with. And I'll explain more and give some examples here later. So the truth is, and some of you guys have probably realized this with private equity buying up so many businesses, is competitors are taking up a lot of space on Google Maps. And what's happening is they're buying businesses and they may even get rid of the office space that they were in, but they keep the listing. And unless somebody reports that, Google keeps it as open. So now they got competitive spots in city A, B, C, and D, and you only have one listing. And it's hard to compete with them because we can't compete with them on the budget side because they have a massive budget to do paid ads and local service ads and Facebook and everything else. So we want to be smarter about how we do this and get strategic so we can expand your presence. So we're going to start with how to do the setup. And this is there's going to be some stuff in here. You guys are going to want to take some screenshots as I get to some of these things, because some of these things are ChatGPT prompts as we get a little bit further into this webinar. So that way you guys can make sure, because you can literally take a screenshot, throw it into a ChatGPT, and it can just read the screenshot for you and do whatever it is you want it to do. But we're going to get some really actionable things for you guys to do. And if you guys have multiple screens like I do, feel free to have ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your favorite LLM is open, so you can screenshot and throw the prompt in there and kind of make yourself a master prompt list of how to do this. So just like I talked about in the opening, if you understand how to do this, you can set up leads and you can consistently generate local leads, which we all know local leads. Maybe you're paying someone to manage it. Like some of you guys on here, I know are clients of ours. You're paying us to manage these listings, but the cost to manage that listing is so minimal compared to what you have to pay the piper. And the piper in this instance is typically Google in order to rank and get that visibility. You get free visibility by ranking in the top 3 of Google Maps. And no matter what changes come to AI, even with, if some of you guys have ever looked on maybe a personal email and you've looked up AI overview or AI mode on Google and you've done like a local search, the 5 to 10 businesses they pull are still the top 5 to 10 on Google, on the legacy Google business profile rankings. So ranking in that first 5 or 10 is going to have you show up on AI as well. And that's something important, and an important distinction. I've done that test multiple times, and it's really crucial to understand that that will still help you rank, even in this world of AI search. So let's go through a few reasons why 1 GBP is no longer enough. So I don't remember the exact time frame just because Google has so many updates, but it was maybe a year or 2 ago. Google really tightened their proximity filter. And proximity, if you're not familiar with that word, is just the distance between a searcher and your business. So just how far away that is. And the reason they did that is, I mean, Google's a business. They're a for-profit business. Their goal is to get you to pay them more money. And they do that in the way of ad spend, local service ads, and other products. So if they shrink your proximity enough, they realize you're going to need more business. So what are you going to do? You're going to go pay them up. I'm going to go pay Google $5,000 this month to go get some of that business that I lost. That's a loss for you and a win for them. But that's also why they're one of the biggest companies in the world. They kind of have everyone by the bootstraps there. So that limited proximity has caused a lot of problems for companies because they can only rank typically in like an 8 to 10 mile window. And sometimes your service area is 25, 30 miles. As mentioned, you only rank 5 to 8 miles around one location. Every new GBP equals a new ranking opportunity. And this is the big one. And I know, like Lori, you have, I think you guys are all 3 trades. Actually, if you guys could put the trades that you serve in the chat, because that will actually help me. I can make some examples for you guys that are relevant to you. But in the instance of Lori and Jay's over in North Carolina, you guys have 3 trades. You only get 1 primary category per Google Business Profile. And unless you're in the sticks, in the middle of nowhere, those secondary categories are not going to rank. So if you have HVAC or an HVAC category first, plumbing's not going to get a whole lot of traffic. Electrical's not going to get a whole lot of traffic. If you have plumbing first, the other 2 are not. And that's a really big misconception, because I see companies all the time. They're like, man, I just don't know what I just can't grow plumbing. I don't know why, but they only have 1 GBP, or they have 2 GBPs and both are focused on HVAC. that primary category is the most important signal to Google about what types of leads they should send you. So that's why the multi-trade companies, that can be a real struggle for them. Okay, so Ryan's got plumbing and HVAC, Bradley plumbing, Blair plumbing and HVAC. Okay, so we got a couple examples that I can use later on in this presentation about how to set that up properly. All right. So we know Google's cracking down on spam. For those that have been in business long enough, I actually was talking to someone in somewhere in the South yesterday, and we talked about he's been in business for 15 years, and he's trying to get a second listing uh, reinstated. And of course, he's using a Regis office. So we talked through that a little bit and talked through the challenges of getting a second listing submitted and verified through Google's video verification process. The old days of the postcard method are over. I doubt they'll ever come back. And the reason is because spam was complete. When I started this company, spam was so rampant. Literally, you could go to any big market and you would see a ton of spam listings, just trying to rank. And what they would do is these marketing agencies would rank these Google Business Profile listings locally. They get calls. They'd sell the calls for $50 or $75, no different than Home Advisor or Angie or any of these other guys do. They just buy the leads and then they resell them to you. So video verification is a huge component of this. I don't know if and we might have a QR code on here, but Nadine, just in case, could you grab the video verification guide from our website and just make sure that that resource is either with the email or in this chat here so people can have that, because it's a step-by-step guide of when you go to set up a second location, exactly what to have set up, how to run the video, what to do, what to say, all those sorts of things. So it's a really great resource to just keeping your files saved somewhere for whenever that time comes. So there's a couple key rules in order to get a second listing verified. And you must serve customers at the address or be a true service area. Now, with this, my recommendation to everybody, because I've actually, in that Google Business Profile Optimization webinar I mentioned that Nadine dropped the YouTube video for in the chat, I shared this example. It's a plumbing client that signed on with us in 2023, and they had 2 service area business listings. A service area business listing, if you're not familiar, is where you get the listings verified, but they're hiding the address, and it just looks like a service area. You put your service area in, and it creates like a little triangle around your area. The problem with that is Google does not take those as seriously. Those listings are notorious for getting suspended more, and they are also notorious for not ranking as well. Google just doesn't trust them the same way because it's out of your house. So my best recommendation is to always focus on getting a physical office. And I know when I say that, I get a lot of groans and moans and probably some eye rolls and, oh, I got to pay for rent at a place that I'm not really going to be staffed. And the answer is yes. But overall, this is still significantly cheaper than going to pay Google ads. So look at it if in comparison, if you get the same amount of leads, you're going to pay a lot less to do this the right way than to pay Google. No virtual offices, PO boxes. I know most people know that, but it is always worth reminding people. And then obviously you want to make sure you use a consistent name, address, and phone. I did make a post that somewhat recently about NAP and some of that stuff, because that stuff's actually, citations and directories have come back with a vengeance with AI search. It feels like SEO actually kind of got knocked back like 8 to 10 years where citations were like the most important thing. Then they went away for a little while and it really wasn't that important. Now they're back, and AI search, it's super important to have your name mentioned in a bunch of places. So let's go through some tips for verification and avoiding red flags. I guess I do have the video on here. Oops. Why is that? Oh, that's weird. It's like, Nadine, when I click on my next slide, it's literally opening up our resources page on our website. I don't know why that is. But here's the QR code for that video verification guideline. So if you didn't get it from Nadine, we will email this out as well, but you can grab that with your mobile phone, or you can just go to relentless-digital.com/resources. We have way more resources on there than just this, but the video verification one is on there. All right, now to the real nitty gritty. And this is where you guys are going to want to start probably taking some screenshots, or, uh, you know, grabbing screenshots from your phone or whatever, however the easiest way for you is on this. But we're going to talk about the research needed before you open a new GBP listing. And this is going to include some prompts. It's going to include some manual searching. Don't worry, it literally takes, once you know what you're doing, it takes less than 5 minutes to do. But there's just a few logical steps that are get put in place here that make this where you can really grow quickly with a new listing versus end up getting a new listing and feeling like it's not really working out for you. So what we need to do to make this work, mention a physical office. I'll talk more about review rotation here shortly, because this has actually gotten a lot easier with AI and Claude Code and all that sort of stuff that's out there now. Before you get a new office, this is important. Not every company has enough review volume to do this strategy. If you're getting 5 reviews, 8 reviews a month, and you don't have a great review strategy to get 20, 30, 40, or even more reviews per month, this probably isn't going to work out real well, because the reason is the only way to make this work when you say you have 2 listings. So let's say like Rachel has a plumbing and heating company. So you have one listing that's focused on plumbing, one that's focused on heating or air conditioning. You need to be able to support enough review volume, because review frequency and review velocity, these are 2 newer-ish terms in the marketing world that Google looks at. Essentially, how quickly are you getting reviews and how consistently are you getting reviews? So if you go 1 month and you get 10 reviews on one listing, then you switch the link to the other one and you get 10 on that one, you really only got 5 per month on each. It's not enough in today's world, especially if you're in a bigger market. Like in Phoenix here, we got guys like Parker and Sons who have 32,000 reviews or some ridiculous number like that. So you have to be able to have a review volume to support the growth of more locations. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a second listing that dabbles with 13, 15, 18 reviews. And if you guys are doing a search yourself, I think we can all be honest with ourselves and say, if I saw a bunch of companies with hundreds of reviews and one with like 18, even if they ranked, I'm like, something just feels a little off. Like, I'm not going to hire the one with 18 reviews. So we have to be able to get enough review volume to make this work. So it's something that, one, if you have not or don't have a good system, easiest thing to do is get a business card with a QR code to your review link, or one of those QR code tap to scan type code. I have one. I don't have it with me, but I use it actually as a business card. I don't want to carry a bunch of business cards, so I just have a tap card. And super easy. Their little NFC scanner on their phone will tap it, open up right to your Google link. That's the best way to do it. The second best way is to have a review follow-up system as soon as a job is closed. Like the moment the tech is in the house and he gets payment, close the job in the house, the text message goes out and you ask that person right away. So 2 ways to do it. Ideally you would do both, but review volume to support multiple listings is crucial. Relevant website pages, that's pretty easy. We'll talk about that here in a second. You probably want your own rank tracking tool to understand if this strategy is working for you, because if you're paying for a lease, you're paying for someone to manage it, you got to make sure you're getting a return on investment. Just like anything else, there are a ton of rank tracking tools out there. Local Viking, Local Falcon, SEMrush has a local tool. Literally just go and look for local heat map tool or local Google Maps heat map tool, and you'll probably see an entire page of results. Just pick one that's cheap for you and can do the job. You don't need something like we have. We have a pretty big account for all the stuff that we run. And then, of course, you need the video verification process, so make sure you grab that guide. All right. Now, my preference today, when I first created this webinar last year, I was all about ChatGPT. I have almost completely moved over to Claude for just about everything. I actually very rarely use ChatGPT anymore. But either way, it doesn't really matter what local or large language model you use. This prompt or some variation of this prompt is perfect. I need help determining which city will be the best location for a new office for my whatever type of company you are. The options are, this is where you should at least know a little bit about your area. Like, hey, give it 5 to 7 or 10 options. Please put the following information in a table population of each city, median household income, number of single family homes, and if possible, sometimes it doesn't always pull this, but how many HVAC contractors' offices are within the city limits, and then the median property value. So it doesn't read real well. I think when we pasted this, it just didn't really come out great, but some variation of that prompt would really help. And it looks like this. So you get this really nice table that comes back. Sometimes, like I said, you can't quite get this information, but I will show you a secondary way to get the number of single family homes and potentially the number of contractors. But it comes back with the population of the city, median household income, property value. So you can start whittling down your list of, let's say, 5 cities down to 2 or 3. Because then once we whittle it down to 2 or 3 that focus on like, hey, maybe we're at the high end of our market, our pricing's high, our service is high, everything we do is all about value. Maybe you have a company that's, the second HVAC company I worked at was, and this is where my boss and I butted heads. He wanted to be high volume, low margin, and just not really the way I like doing things. So we butted heads a lot after I was there and ended up with me parting ways. But no matter that, like if you're low margin and high volume, you might want to look into Phoenix or Mesa, somewhere where those customers will appreciate that sort of work, and you can do a lot of volume because there's a lot of people. If you're more into serving customers with extremely high levels of service, your pricing dictates that. You might want to be in more these areas like this that have higher median property value and higher income. So it's just something that you can make a decision on. Now, in order to help you find a new location, this is where you can get more detailed information. I mentioned like that first initial prompt did not pull the number of single family homes. So if you go to this website, data.census.gov, you can take those, let's say in this instance, 5 cities. You have to do this 5 times, but you go in and you type in that city. And what you're going to see here is you're actually going to see the number of housing units, which will help you understand how many single family homes, because the population sounds great, but you may be in an area that's like a college town, or it's got a ton of apartments, things that aren't really your customer base. And so you want to know how many housing units, because that will help you understand what the potential is there. So this will help. And this is really an easy way to find this information. And then of course you can take these screenshots or this information, put it back into ChatGPT or Claude to help you with further analysis on those. So after you get the number of housing units or number of households, go back to ChatGPT and type in this prompt or something similar. Based on the data available and armed with the information that my customers are, this is where knowing a little bit about your customers, or at least who you want to serve in an ideal world, would be great. I put in an example here, ideally a 2-income earning household and middle to upper middle class. Can you rank these 5 cities in order of which would be best for my ideal customer? And then you're going to get an output that looks like this. It will rank it for you, and it will tell you why that's the most ideal city for you to get a second listing in. This is where we start figuring out, okay, cool. Now I got a list. Now I got to go find an office. And sometimes, like Gilbert, for example, Gilbert and Queen Creek are both pretty expensive. So maybe just because it's number 1 on the list does not mean it's number 1 where you actually go get an office. This is a way for you to kind of work down your list, because you want to work from most ideal to least ideal and find a middle ground somewhere where you can afford an office space. So there's a few ways that you can find a new location. And so the next step is find a potential office space. What you probably want to do for this is just type in, and you can use AI for this if you want. Sometimes it's not as accurate as maybe a Google search would be, but there are individual office spaces at WeWork locations and Regis locations. You just have to be careful that is not a co-working space. You have to be very clear when you ask, because what they'll tell you is, oh, we can get your Google business listing verified here. And then it's like a open conference table in the middle of a room. It's not going to work anymore with video verification. So you have to make sure it is a dedicated office suite. The nice thing about going through Regis or WeWork or something like that is the offices are cheap. They're 8 by 8, 10 by 10 rooms. They don't cost a lot of money. So it's reasonable from that perspective, unless you're in California, and it's probably not so reasonable at that point. But there's other markets, maybe it's not so reasonable. But generally speaking, Regis and WeWork type buildings are great because they have a ton of little offices, and they get a lot of people to pay for like a monthly subscription with the main like conference table and stuff. So they have a lot of reasonably priced buildings. So next, I'm going to show you when you find a location. Let's say you found it's 123 Main Street, whatever city it is. So you found the address. This is the address that you want to try to verify. Before you go sign a lease, there's a few more steps we want to take to make sure that we're not right next to a bunch of huge competitors, that we're within Google's city limits. Super important when setting up a listing, because we've had clients who struggle, and they even struggle to really comprehend this after we explain it. Their listing is outside the main city they want to rank in, and there's a ton of competitors inside the city, and they just can never really break through. Like, you can see their rankings are really good until you hit that city line, and then it starts dropping off. And that's Google's proximity filter at play. They say, well, if you want to serve this city, you're not inside the city, so we're not going to rank you as highly as someone that's inside the city. Fair or not, that's just the way the algorithm works. And you guys knowing that can help you, because you would be surprised at how many times we get on a discovery call and we are the first marketing company that's ever told somebody that. So they've tried 4, 5, 6 other marketing companies. Nobody told them their address is what's holding them back from growing. And it's unfortunate, but it is also a really powerful thing for you as a business owner or manager to understand, because now you have the power to be like, okay, I know this is an important thing. Let's take care of that first. Then let's get with the marketing company, because then I know I'm going to have a better chance at results. And your marketing company will probably thank you as well, even if they don't necessarily know that that's a big deal. All right. So step one. So let me go through this. So when you find the address, you're going to go to google.com/maps. So let's say it's 123 Main Street, Mesa, Arizona. Go to Google Maps, type in the address. Then what you're going to do on your screen, and I can't show it because it's not in here, you're going to zoom out of the screen a little bit and remember where that map pin is of the office. Okay, so it's just a little memorization. You got to just, okay, it's right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to type in on the same Google Maps Chrome tab your primary keyword in city. So what that looks like is, in the example of an AC company in Mesa, Arizona, since I did 123 Main Street, Mesa, Arizona, I'd zoom out. I would delete 123 Main Street and I would say AC repair, because it's an air conditioning market, AC repair Mesa. And then what's going to happen is you're going to know really quickly what your competitive landscape looks like. And I will show you some screenshots of this. I just want to talk through this before I go through it, because I don't have a step-by-step after this. What you're looking for when you see competitors, one, I don't want to be grouped very tightly with a bunch of competitors, because it's going to be very hard for you to stand out, especially when you're starting a new listing with 0 reviews, 0 citations. You're going to be climbing a pretty steep mountain. So just keep that in mind. Now, it could still work, especially if you're really good at getting reviews and stuff, but it's going to be a lot longer climb. So in order to get a faster return on your investment, you want to be able to get a quick win. And that means not having a ton of big competitors right next to you. So that's something you want to look for. The last step on Google Maps is now remove the keyword. So remove AC repair and just look at putting the city in. So Mesa, Arizona in this example. And if you remember where your map pin is, what you'll see is a red dotted line that will outline the city limits. You want to make sure the map pin is either on that line or within that line. Ideally closer to the city center, but that's not always possible. But you want to be within that city limit, that red dotted map. That's the super important piece from being able to rank with Google's proximity filter. All right. So now that we've gone through that, let's talk what this looks like. So here's the example screenshot. AC repair, Mesa, Arizona. I should have probably had one with the location on here, but you can kind of see this is going to show you your competitive landscape. Now the first, I should have just shown the organic rankings. The first organic ranking is Semperfi, huge company here, and they're like $70 or $80 million, something like that. But it might even be bigger than that now. So if my location was over in this area and Semperfi is right there, probably not ideal. If it's over in this area a little bit more, it might be more ideal because these competitors might not be as big. Now, I don't necessarily know, but it's just one of those things that you have to pay attention to. And these are things that my team can answer really easily if you have questions and you're not sure of. So feel free to always reach out to myself or my team on this. Just show us what you're working with, and we'll tell you if we think that would work or not. The next step, again, was just the city of Mesa. So what you'll see is this is some sort of map like this. Google's maps are really funky. Like, I don't know why this area is cut out from this map, but it is. So it's just important for us to know, and you want to make sure wherever that map pin was, it falls inside of this map. So check the competitive landscape, make sure your map pin falls inside of there. If the competitive landscape looks good and it's inside the city limits and it's in something that you could afford for an office, you can go ahead and sign that lease. So that's essentially the process to follow to make sure that you are set up for success. All right. So now the question always becomes, can I rank more than one? Because there are people out there that say it's not possible or you shouldn't be doing it. It's against Google's guidelines. I would argue that with all of Google's might and all the money spent on these big brands and e-commerce and everything else, I don't think they care about a local HVAC plumbing or electrical company having a second office. And I've been proven right for years now. It's never been an issue, especially if you do it the right way and have a physical office. How are they going to know you didn't expand your business? It's impossible to know. So, but the answer is yes. So the company, this is actually a screenshot from the company that I used to work at. They're still a client, actually. They've been a client for like 4 years now, but their main listing is actually off the screen here. It's up in Port Washington, which is about 10 miles north of Grafton, Wisconsin here. This area is a super lucrative area for us. A lot of really nice houses right along the lakefront, a ton of money in this area. And what you're seeing is, yes, you can absolutely rank for a very large service area if done right. Oh, there you go. I should have put this one first. This was our main listing. This was Port Washington, and we cleaned up in this area. So that's why, and here you can see Grafton down here, and then you can almost see where the second listing starts taking over because we start falling off the rankings, and then the other listing that I just showed kind of falls in line right with this area here. So that's how we just take that. And so now we take our 10, 12 mile normal service radius and we expand it to more than like 20, 25 miles. Some more examples. This is one location. This is in Oklahoma. There's another one. This is somewhere else in Oklahoma, outside of Tulsa. I can't remember exactly where. But you guys get the point. A couple more examples. This is outside of Dallas, which is super, super, super competitive. But this philosophy works. The bigger metro, the one thing you'll notice there's more red on this than like the one in Port Washington, Wisconsin. The bigger the market and the more competitors you have, the harder it is going to be to expand the map. Everyone wants the map to look all green. They want that green Christmas tree look. It's not going to happen if you're in a huge metro area. So you're getting your hopes up and your expectations up a little too high. It's just not going to happen. There's too many competitors. Proximity plays a factor there. It's just not going to happen. So it's just set realistic expectations. There is a score typically, especially if you guys have these heat map ranking tools or you purchase one, there's typically, it's either called visibility score or share of local voice, SOLV. What you want to look for is for whatever keyword you're focused on, you want to be one of the top 2 or 3 people. You want to have the highest score. And what that does is it's some sort of algorithm. I don't know exactly how the formula works, but it's some sort of algorithm that helps you determine, are you the most visible company in your market? And how much market share do you have based on ranking for that keyword? And that's really the focus there, is to just give you a snapshot and be like, hey, my goal is to be one of the top 2 or 3 here. And if I have a second listing, top 2 or 3 there. If you do that, you will be successful with this strategy. But it's a great way to also understand, like, let's say a top competitor is at 80% and you're at 30, that what that's telling you is the top dog can get to about 80%. So there is room for you to grow in that listing. So if you have one listing and you're not one of the top 2 or 3 companies there, I would focus on making sure in that main primary market, you're one of the top 2 or 3 before you go and spend and get another listing. Because if you don't rank well in your main market, it doesn't matter what's going to happen in a secondary market. So just something to keep in mind to be more strategic as far as when you should consider doing this and deploying this strategy. Apparently I got some examples in here. There we go. All right. Let's get into some common optimization mistakes. So I talked about multi-trade and we have some HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies. And Michael, I see the comments since you have 3 locations. I'd love to know what trades you have. But typically, and it's fine if you're an HVAC company and you have 3 listings in 3 different markets, this is okay to have the same primary category and stuff like that in all these different markets. But this is where the strategy really starts differing. I'm going to use an example of an HVAC, plumbing, electrical. So all 3 primary trades, and we have 3 listings. The goal of this typically, as long as you want to grow all 3 trades, is you'd have one that is primary HVAC, one's primary plumbing, one's primary electrical. Now, some of the mistakes that I see is you get one website page connected to each Google Business Profile listing. Sometimes 2 if you have your online booking link or schedule link or whatever, but you typically get one that most people, when you click this little website button right here, it goes to a specific page. So this is where it's important to make sure your SEO, your on-page website stuff matches your Google Business Profile strategy, because in City 1, we'll call this Phoenix. If I'm an air conditioning contractor, I want to make sure that the page that this connects to is an air conditioning repair service or air conditioning contracting page, focused on that as the primary keyword, targeting Phoenix. If this was Scottsdale and my listing's plumber in Scottsdale, I want to have a page focused on my plumbing services in Scottsdale. Because what that does is there's Google calls it relevance. You want to make sure that these listings are as relevant as possible to what the landing page says, so that it just gives Google more context. And the last one would be like electrical in Mesa. You want a page that focuses on your electrical services in that city. So that's one key optimization mistake I see all the time when auditing listings, is people don't have that stuff matched up. The other big mistake, and I'm just giving you the scenario of multi-trade. If you're one trade, you can get reviews to all 3 and just rotate them every 3 jobs if you want. But if you have HVAC, plumbing, electrical listing, one thing it's actually not as difficult as people think to do, but when you close out, and let's use Service Titan as an example. Let's say the job type is anything, or the business unit's anything HVAC related, and we have that one HVAC listing. I want to send all of the review requests from that listing to all my HVAC jobs, because then the keywords or the words that your customers are going to use are going to be focused on your HVAC services. Again, more relevance. Then my plumbing listing, I send all my plumbing jobs. I send the review link to that listing. My electrical listing, same thing. I send all of those jobs to my electrical listing. So now we have a landing page that's connected. And focused on the right services. We have reviews focused on the right services. It just gives Google more relevance and context about your business, and you're going to have a better opportunity to rank for those listings. So again, remember, put your questions. I know we're going over a lot. Put your questions in the comments, because I'm sure there will be some questions on this, because this gets it's fine detail nuance that really makes a difference. And then the last thing that would come with this is when you post, your post should be focused on the right category. So if HVAC listing, all your posts should be about your HVAC services or offers. Same thing with plumbing and electrical. So essentially, it's just making sure the details are followed, so that way you silo your HVAC, plumbing, electrical listing to the right type of content. And you don't just mix and match and do all these unique things where it's like all of my stuff's going to all the listings, and kind of create a little bit of a chaotic mess there. All right, talked about this. So I guess the other mistake is that sometimes people have multiple listings. Like in Michael Bailey, I know you mentioned you have 3 locations. I don't know if this is, I have no idea. I've never audited your stuff, but what happens sometimes is people put the homepage 3 times as the primary URL. And it's just not a good idea because it's not relevant to that city and that service. So this is where your location page strategy or your service page strategy on your website becomes a little bit more important. And this is also where organic SEO and local SEO, their paths start to cross. Manual review request. And this gets really difficult when you have multiple listings because it's just tough to remember to switch the link. I have had probably hundreds of people over the last 6 years tell me, yeah, I just switched the link. So I go on the second listing. I'm like, well, you haven't gotten a review over here for 3 months. Oh yeah, we got busy and I forgot to switch the link. It just never happens. Like, it's not in this day and age with all of the things thrown at you guys and all the technology and just the customer concerns and the price changes, everything else that's going on in your business. Trying to remember one more manual thing is just not a great idea. Now, there's a couple ways to do it, and I'd have to get like detailed specifics from my team because we built it out with Claude Code. But before Claude Code, we built it out with a Google. You can write Google scripts, and you can use Claude to write Google scripts. I've actually done this for like our Google Ads department. Every Sunday night, they get a report of everyone's PPC campaigns from the week before and things that were good, things that were, if cost per conversion stuff changed. So you can do stuff like that with Claude Code. But essentially, what all it was every job rotate to the next link. So like I shared, it was quite a few slides ago. Don't know if I can actually find it now. This is further back than I thought. There we go. So this client, what we did, so they had 5 listings. We rotated every 5th job. So listing 1 got the first review request, then listing 2, 3, 4, 5, then it started over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if they had 20 jobs that day, each listing got 4 review requests is the easy way to remember it. Apologize for having you guys watch through this. Hopefully nobody gets seasick watching all those slides go crazy. I mentioned this already. Make sure the listings are relevant to the primary category and the city on that page. Secondary. Okay, so this is the common mistake is when people add a secondary listing, they add it, but they don't treat it like it's its own business entity. The main listing gets all the love, it gets all the posts, it gets all the photos, it gets all the reviews, and the other one just kind of sits there. I had a plumber there in San Francisco. They were working with a different marketing company, and that was literally one of the first things I noticed was they had 3 listings. The main one had 350 reviews or something. The other ones had like 12. The other one had 7. And then the last reviews were like 6, 7, 8 months ago. The marketing company just either didn't know or didn't put any effort or energy into those listings. And they just sat there, even though they were paying for rent, they weren't doing anything for them. Because if you have 12 and 7 reviews on a listing, it's just not going to work. So, and what I mean by treating them as so treating your secondary listings just as important as your main listing, getting reviews, making posts, adding photos or videos to those listings, making sure landing pages are updated, just make sure products and services and FAQs, just make sure every single part of that profile is filled out just like you would on your normal listing. This was the example. I didn't realize I had this in here. This was the plumber that I mentioned that had 2 SAB listings. So the other mistake, because people don't want to spend money on rent. It was a very short-term client, and we probably shouldn't have signed them. They were in like Kansas City or something. They had like 6 SAB listings. And here I thought we could work with it and make it work. It was a disaster because we didn't want to get any physical offices and they didn't have the review volume, but they just heard someone say somewhere, get a bunch of listings and your business will blow up. And it doesn't work unless you follow a strategic plan. This plumber, before we even signed them, we literally had a proposal open. I said, before you sign this, get 1 physical office. And you can see the date range. They literally got the physical office and immediately, without us doing any work, instant ranking growth. And this was back a couple years ago, and this has not changed. This is the same today as it was then. Another huge one. My wife, Brittany, does a lot of our sales calls, and she almost, it's not intentional, but it's a way to make sure people, like almost like an aha moment. She always asks people if they have call tracking set up. And then what she does is she looks at the website and she looks at the Google Business Profile. And a lot of times the number is the same. Like, yeah, my marketing company set up call tracking, or yeah, my team set up call tracking. But you have the same number on your website and the same number on your Google Business Profile. So we can't tell the difference. We can't tell what your website's generating and what your GBP is generating. And this goes for multiple GBP listings as well. Every single listing has to have its own tracking phone number. So you know if that listing is generating enough leads, what kind of leads, what the average ticket of those leads are. And then you can put your main phone number as the secondary number. And that's a big misconception with name, address, phone number, or NAP. Your main number on Google can be your secondary number, but the primary number should always be a call tracking number. Rotate reviews, we talked about that. This is another big mistake with multiple listings is we don't build enough unique citations for each. Each listing is its, you have to think of it like a Walmart or a Walgreens or any of these stores where they're like Starbucks. Every single Starbucks store gets listed on a bunch of different directories that are specific to that location. They treat it as a primary business, even though they have hundreds of them. And on a much smaller scale, we have to do the same thing. So that means we have to get listed on Yelp. We should get another Better Business Bureau profile that's focused on that one, because these are all signals to build that specific location. Now, this is obviously something that we help our clients with. You can definitely do this yourself. If you don't want to, if you like marketing, you want to do this stuff yourself, you absolutely can. If you reach out to my team, we even have a list. We can help you with a list of like a bunch of citations, but citations have grown in importance with AI search. So it's absolutely something you do not want to miss out on. Oh, look at that. There we go. Build unique citations for each listing. I'm so glad my team thinks ahead and puts this stuff out here for me. You can grab this. This has the top citation sites for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical contractors. So it'd be kind of like a massive to-do list, which either you or a virtual assistant can help you with, or obviously we would do a lot of this if you were a client of ours. All right. A couple quick wins. So we went through this whole process. We went through the competitive landscape. We checked the address. We found out that we got a to-do list of the best cities for us based on our type of customer. We went through video verification. We got the listing live. It's like everyone's favorite part when they get that email, your listing's live, and now the fun begins. The first thing that I would recommend every single person that does this do is go through your existing customer list and go ask them for a review. Now, we have an entire system for this. It works exceptionally well. Nadine, I don't know if you have the link handy, but the Rep Engine link, if you have that for results, you can share that in the comments, or we can get that out on the email. But with that, the important thing is, because we don't want to, getting reviews helps with rankings, which you see on the screen. You can see the dates. This was a HVAC company in right outside of Lexington. This is their second listing. Obviously, they weren't ranking well when they got it set up. We started getting reviews. They had a pretty small list at that time, about 1,500 customers. I think we got like 40 reviews. Our review system was not nearly as good as it is now. And you can see the difference. This was like a 6-week span, 7 weeks maybe. And we went from this to this. Besides optimizing the profile, the biggest thing we did was we went out and got reviews quickly. So that's really one of the biggest things you can do. It sounds so simple, but go back to your existing customers and just ask them again. It works. We've had some clients. We had an electrician. I think they're our top producing review company. They have like, when we did this process for them, they got over 300 reviews in less than 30 days. So can absolutely work really well. Some of this depends on the size of your list, depends on how well you took care of your customers and stuff like that for conversion rate. But we have several clients that have been on this process who've got well over 100 reviews in less than 3 or 4 weeks. And if you have a marketing company you're happy with, but you do want to talk to us about reviews, you can get just our review system without becoming a client. Reach out to us. I can tell you more about that. It's pretty affordable. And this one, I've shared this one several times on social media. I love sharing this one. This is like literally the easiest hack for local SEO is when you drive to work or your team drives from their job site to the office or they drive into the office in the morning, even if they know how to get to work and they've been there 100 times before, tell them to just open Google Maps, hit the office, hit directions. They can put it on mute so they don't hear the noise and just drive to the office with that on. Because what happens is inside your Google business profile, you get credit for everyone that drives to your office. That's a signal, and you can help boost your rankings by just having people do this. I tell people this, and they probably like, wow, that's really simple, and they won't do it. So my challenge to you is to take action on this and do it tomorrow when you come to the office. Just put it in. You don't have to have the noise on if you want to listen to the radio or something, but just have it on, have the phone on silent, and just let it ride. Do it every day. Because think about that. 5 times a week for one person. If you have 5 or 10 technicians doing this when they're driving to the office to get their truck or they're coming in to get equipment or materials, this is going to help tremendously. And it doesn't cost you a dime. Those people are already coming to the office. It's just going to help you boost your listing. All right. So right now we want to make sure that we're focused on growing our business. And as I showed you guys today, more locations equals more potential ranking opportunity if done properly. So you want to build the listings the right way to make sure you avoid suspensions. And then we want to automate the review management because manual I've seen it happen enough, and you may be the most diligent person. Most people, if they go on vacation, they will miss this. So automating the review management process absolutely helps. If you went through this and you're overwhelmed and you don't want to do it yourself, you can book a call with our team. Our team will either walk you through some of this process. We can even go over locations and location strategy with you. But you can book a call with our team. Just use this QR code here. And with that being said, that is all I had for today. I am actually extraordinarily proud of myself. I did this in under an hour, which Nadine knows is literally next to impossible when I do these webinars. I have had webinars go almost 2 hours in length because I have a lot that I want to help people with and to share. So what questions do we have, Nadine? All right, let's start with Dee Dee. How far? Oh, this is great. I actually should have put this in the webinar. Great question, Dee Dee. How far from the first listing should your second one be in miles, more or less, to maximize on visibility? Fantastic question, and thank you for asking. So I mentioned getting like a local heat map tool or understanding your ranking. So one, let's say I'm going to give you the examples. We're back and you're one of the top 2 or 3 companies in your area for whatever the primary terms you want to rank for. That map is going to give you a really good idea about kind of where your limits are going to be for ranking. So as like a rule of thumb, 8 to 10 miles away is typically safe. But if you have some rural areas, like you saw those maps at the professional services where I used to work, some of those areas were a little more rural. So we ranked for a larger area, a larger service area. So the second location we set up was like 15 miles away. So it just really depends on how well you rank, how far you rank, because the further you rank, I would go even a little further from with the office listing. So it's really dependent on how well you rank, and then of course where you want to try to get a second listing. But that's a great question. All right, Dee Dee's got another question. If you are plumbing and HVAC, do you open one plumbing GBP and one HVAC GBP in the same area? You can. Couple things on this. Some people will try to do this at like suite A, suite B in the same building. If you do that, it's not that you can't do that. One, Google's going to get a little confused on that, so it might take a little longer to get the second listing up, but it can be done. I would get a DBA or a doing business as certificate, or some states called a fictitious certificate, where like, let's say that your first name is ABC Plumbing. The second one would be ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Make the names more distinct than just having like ABC Home Services on both listings. Because if you have that name on both listings, Google's going to get real confused real quick. But you can absolutely have them in different buildings in the same city as well. That's the easier way to do it, is have them a couple miles apart. My favorite way to do this is have one listing in one area, one city, and have another listing in another area. And the reason why is you get a chance to get new customers in two different cities. If you're in one city for both trades, you're only going to get customers from that one city. And then you're limiting yourself from getting new customers. And then you're also limiting yourself from opportunity to cross sell to the plumbing customers you got in city B, to the HVAC customers you got in city A. So there's some more cross-selling opportunities there by expanding that radius a little bit and getting customers in two cities. But it can absolutely be done. So just to clarify the point, it can absolutely be done where you're in the same area with two listings. All right, Blair, some directions. Could you repeat that with the directions? We do what again? Oh, I think you were talking about the driving directions. So on the way to work, take out your phone, just put it in your car, put it on silent, go to Google Maps, the Google Maps app, type in your office address, just type in your business name and hit directions. And it will, just like normal, like anytime you use your GPS, it'll drive you there. Just leave it on silent and drive to the business with that on. Because as soon as you reach your destination, you're going to get a credit inside of your Google business profile for a driving direction. Because if you guys have ever seen your stats and stuff on the back end of the listing, it will show number of driving directions. That's a signal to Google. The more of those you get, it's just like anything. It's just like the more calls you get, the more reviews you get, the more website clicks you get. These are all good signals to Google. So this is a really simple, easy way that's not spammy at all. And you can just put get the directions in and get credit for it. So I hope that answered your question, Blair. I think that's what you were referring to. Anthony has a question. I am renting a second office space, which is not a shared office, for a DBA for a second location about 25 miles away. I assume the best course of action is to create a new GBP for that location. Yes, I would 100% do that. Anthony, are you saying you renting a second office space, but you don't have a GBP for that? Because if not, I would absolutely use that as a way to get another office or another GBP listing. Sorry. Go ahead and answer, and I'll go to the next question. Lori, you nailed it. Yep. If you have an HVAC location and plumbing location, should we steer specific trade reviews to that location? Like, so the example was plumbing job review to plumbing location, HVAC to HVAC. Yes, 100%. The reason why I didn't get into this as much is a lot of people will share that your review replies matter, and marketing companies will spam the review replies with keywords and stuff. Google's too smart to know that that's not a good tactic. But what they do look at is what your customers put in their reviews. So if your customers are saying something about the HVAC install and how great your team was, that is what's going to matter to help you rank for those sorts of terms. So the more relevant the review content can be from your customer to that listing, the better off you're going to be. So hopefully that kind of clears that up a little bit more. All right, Anthony said correct. So I'm going to go back to his really quick, Nadine. So yes, definitely get a second listing. Download that video verification guide. Let us know if you have any questions on that, because we can absolutely help you out with that. But look at the video verification guide first, because that will help you like set up your office, and because you got to get like a vinyl sign and you probably already have a desk and a computer and stuff. There's a few things you want to set up before you go through that process. I'm just going to take this one, Nadine, because he just asked the question. I think we're caught up on all the other ones. So do I make a second profile under my current GBP or make a complete new one? Complete new one. You treat it just like it's a brand new business you're opening up. So a lot of people, when they have two listings set up and they go to verify the second one, there's like a little, when you go to verify, there's like a little button in there that says, hey, this looks like this business here, and it's your other listing. Are you sure it's not the same? People make the mistake, even with coaching from us. They click that button. It's like, oh yeah, that's my listing. And then they get the new one suspended as a duplicate before they even have a chance to get live. So you just say, nope, it's not the same. and you can go ahead and go through the video process at that point. That's all in that video verification guide, but just in case that's come up for some of you guys, that's a helpful little tip too. Thanks, Junior. I'm glad the verification guide helped you guys get that set up and done. Rachel asks, will this also be the same for Apple Business? So Apple Business is a completely unique beast. One, they are not nearly as friendly to home service businesses. So one, if you have a service area business listing, there is no way for you to get approved on Apple. You have to have an office location, and you have to tell them specifically, especially if you're ever getting a support ticket, that you do have customers come into your office. Even if they never come to your office, you just tell them that, because Apple's a little sticky with that. But I have never tested getting multiple Apple business listings. So that's definitely something I would be okay testing. So if you want to bring that to our team, Rachel, we're happy to test that with you. But I've never set that up because Apple's stickier, and Apple's also really hard to. There's like in the Apple Business Connect or Apple Business Manager, there's just not a whole lot of data to tell us if the listing's doing well. It's really hard, and you can't really. I don't think you can put tracking numbers on those. It's just not. It's not marketing or marketer friendly is I guess the best way to say it. And on that, I've actually been trying to, since you're talking about Apple has opened up an ad spot, but I have not been able to get access for home service clients yet. I've tried a few times, and there's like a little ads button when you log in, but it just literally like reverts back to a different page, and there's no like options to run ads. But just so you guys know, if you hadn't heard, Apple is starting to open up ads on their Maps app. So it is something you may want to look into. Just put it down as a checklist item, maybe when you got time to just check into it. But at some point, you will be able to run ads on Apple Business Connect. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the questions. I hope this was valuable. We'd love to hear from you guys as far as your takeaways and stuff like that. Nadine is going to send out, most likely tomorrow, and then maybe again on Tuesday next week, a replay, because we did have like 100 people register for this. So we'll get that replay out to everybody. If you guys have questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out. If some of you guys were clients, and if you haven't heard or haven't gone over some of the stuff we talked about, feel free to reach out your CX team. They'll come to me if they don't know. So look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me, and have a fabulous Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully I'll see you guys all again in the next webinar. Thank you.